All right. We would like to welcome everyone to today's edition of the Step Up Your Safety series here at RAS. I'm Therese, and I'll be your monitor. I am also joined by Jeff Roach, who is one of our loss control consultants with RAS. Today's topic is small moves, big impact, reducing strain in the workplace. As we get started, just a couple of things. You've all entered with your phones and your computer audio muted. If you do have any questions that come up as we go through the information today, feel free to use the Q&A feature and type your questions in. We will address those at the end as time allows. And as I said, I am going to give this over to Jeff, and he is going to go over the webinar for today.
Very good. Thanks, Therese. So, purpose of this webinar is just sharing the idea that you don't have to have large budget. There's some things, there's some quick, low effort things that can be done. You don't need major engineering changes with large price tags to make a difference. And so we're going to go through and outline actionable low effort ergonomic adjustments, practical micro breaks and posture resets to reduce physical strain, prevent discomfort, and maintain energy levels throughout the workday. So we're going to get right into it. So static postures and repetitive motions tend to lead to cumulative muscle fatigue and musculoskeletal issues such as neck pain, back strain, and not making changes to confront these issues can lead to not only lower focus and more mistakes, but also muscle strain that doesn't go away with rest. And so fatigue or muscle soreness, that's a warning sign for a strain injury or repetitive motion type of injury. So it's important to take action early if you're starting to feel that. And if that's left unchecked, soreness leads to pain with activity and potentially pain when you're not working and when you're trying to enjoy your weekend potentially. And so that's usually the stages. So you want to catch things early and not be complacent. So usually the stages are fatigue, maybe some mild fatigue and soreness. Then that can lead to discomfort or pain in the body part. And then, like I mentioned, even when you're not working, when you're not performing that activity, you're noticing some pain. So want to get to that as soon as you can. And you don't need, many times you don't need a complete workstation overhaul, to have an impact and to feel better. So these small sustainable habits can have the biggest impact for you. So we're going to go through a few things. And this is kind of in the area of um, just micro breaks and stretching activities, stretching exercises. So just by changing your position or varying your posture, that can have an impact. Um, if sitting for prolonged periods, it's important to stand and walk, get a drink, if you tend to perform a lot of sitting. If you're on your feet for a long time, on the production floor, maybe in a factory setting, make sure to sit during your break. So you want to try to break things up throughout the day. Um, and you don't have to take a 15 or 30-minute break to experience benefits with increased focus and muscle recovery. If you're doing a computer type of job, you can follow the 20-20-20 rule. So every 20 minutes, you look 20 feet away for 20 seconds. That helps to prevent eye strain when viewing monitors for if you have that type of job or prolonged viewing of monitors. And and stretches, not only micro breaks, but stretches are helpful. Perform stretches like gently rolling your shoulders forward and backward and retracting your shoulder blades. If you've got a job where you tend to, have a slight bend, whether you're sitting or standing, that back extension exercises, um, and then also squeezing your shoulder blades together, those are good stretching options when you tend to be hunched over while working. And that goes for both standing and seated work. If you're standing doing some type of job, I've evaluated jobs where they're doing assembly and maybe testing of products. Just sometimes they're at a bench and they're standing for a long time. So just being able to sit for a while or maybe do some stretching exercises where you're you're extending instead of flexing. We'll go over. I think some people in the audience might have standing types of jobs. Some might have seated type of work. A lot of people work on computers. Even if you don't work on a computer all day, you probably are still exposed to a computer workstation. So what is important to know about sitting at a desk doing computer work? It's important that your feet are planted firmly on the floor and use a footrest if you need to. The shorter a person is, if you don't have a height adjustable work surface, you can use a footrest to accomplish that. Try to keep your hips and knees or your thighs, hips and knees level or your thighs parallel to the ground. And as far as the chair and the backrest, adjust the backrest to fit your natural spinal curve. Use that lumbar support. Keep about a 90 to 100 degree angle at the hips. In the picture there, that's probably closer to a 90-degree angle than a 100-degree angle, but you want to make sure that you're sitting upright, you've got good back support, you've got good lumbar support, your head is over your shoulders, and in the picture, you can see that this is pretty good alignment. You can draw a straight line through the person's ear, through their shoulder, through close to the elbow, but ear, shoulder, elbow, and hip. And if you can keep that upright posture and with that lumbar support and with the good foot support, that is really helpful in maintaining a good seated posture. And you're less likely to experience discomfort. One of the things that I see as an ergonomic specialist is for people that do seated work, many people experience mid to upper back strain, and that is because they tend to sit too high in their chairs without proper foot support. And a lot of times I'm kind of doing little hand puppets with them and explaining that, if you sit um, too high without that proper foot support, your center of gravity is going to move forward, your head is going to move forward, you're going to have that forward head posture, and the upper back and neck end up working really hard to try to support your forward head. And that tends to cause those knots or trigger points between your shoulder blades and in your upper back area. So um, the screen and keyboard, position the top third of your monitor at or just below eye level and arm's length away. So it kind of covered when I talk about computer monitors, there's three things I usually talk about. Height, so that guideline about the top third of the monitor should be eye level. If you have bifocals and feel like you need to look through the lower part of your lenses, then you should drop your monitors down. But for other users, you want to follow the top third guideline. Another thing would be proper centering of a computer monitor. You want to, if you have dual monitors, for example, or sometimes people have maybe two, three monitors. So it's just important to try to minimize your neck rotation while you're working. The monitors I have in front of me right now, dual monitors, and they're pretty much um, equal distance. They're splayed a little bit, and it's the junction between the two monitors is centered with my nose. So if you have a primary monitor and you're using that, it feels like 80 or 90% of the time is you're using a primary monitor, and maybe you have a secondary monitor. It's better to center a primary monitor, offset the secondary monitor, and that way you're not statically rotated with your neck all day. So, and then as far as the keyboard position, it's important, and the mouse, it's important to keep those fairly close so you can keep your elbows near your side, and you want to make sure that you're not reaching too far. Sometimes people will put maybe some paperwork that they're not, maybe their notepad um, in front of their keyboard, and then end up reaching too much for the keyboard. So that can cause some problems over time. So that's a good example of a computer, how to be neutral at a workstation, computer workstation. It's important to implement some sustainable habits, habit stacking. So that would be tying new ergonomic routines to existing ones. So maybe, for example, you're doing a quick stretch while you're waiting for a web page to load. Um, with that, I always encourage people, like, you don't have to have your hand, grasping the mouse tightly while you're waiting for a web page to load or, some sort of software program to load, or if you're reading something on the monitor. Just put your hands in your lap, um, put them down on your armrests maybe, and you don't have to be gripping the mouse tightly when you are waiting or reading. So there's some reminders that are available to you. There's some built-in software programs that are available to make sure that you're moving properly, or you're changing positions. Maybe it's going to tell you to, if you've been sitting, to tell you to stand. If you've been standing, tell you to sit. So those things are available on the market. So some quick takeaways. So small moves can make a big impact in feeling less muscle tension. You don't have to, engineering changes and making, getting a new chair certainly can be helpful. Getting a new desk can be helpful. If you work in a production area where it's a little bit more of a manufacturing setting, there's certainly, tools, carts, material handling equipment. All of those things are important. But with this presentation today, just focusing on how small moves can make that impact, and just by simply rotating your tasks, changing positions. Um, I tell people if your computer workstation, sit, stand, walk. Um, Common guideline in a half an hour period, you could sit for 20 minutes, stand for 8 minutes, walk away from the desk for 2 minutes. And that, I don't know if people out there. Have you ever experienced that when you're frustrated, you're trying to solve a problem, and then you just kind of you're at it for a long time, and it's just getting more and more frustrating. You walk away from it, and then it's amazing how when you come back to that task, it's just, oh, there's the answer right in front of you. How did you miss it? So sometimes it's just walking away, clearing your head. Um, it can improve your focus and lessen your muscle tension. So if you have a job that involves static positions, static sitting, static standing, be sure to add movement to your job. Think about those micro breaks that you can have. Again, just short, 1 minute, 2 minutes, they can be effective in muscle recovery and refocusing. You don't need to take a long break to experience some benefit. I want you to take a lunch break, and try not to take your lunch break at your desk if you can help it. Um, but yeah, try to incorporate those things. Think about micro breaks, stretching exercises, adding movement to your job if you tend to be in static positions. And if you have a job that involves occasional exertion, get help, use tools, equipment to reduce strain. Um, so that's really important. And a lot of times, some people just don't want to take the extra. They want to hurry up and get it done. Maybe they don't want to bother other people, but you know, safety, think about your body. Try to, try to have some energy at the end of the day, at the end of the week. If you go home at the end of the day, at the end of the week, and you feel like you've run a marathon, you might want to think about, what can you do during the day, so you're not so exhausted or sore or whatever it may be. And I got through that in a hurry. But those are the main points. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any at the
Okay.
moment.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a minute in case anybody's
Okay.
typing.
I can go to my resource slide. So there are some good resources out there. So OSHA has a site for ergonomics that you can pull some good resources from. NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, that's got some good resources as well. There's an office ergonomics if you want to just focus on office ergonomics. Mayo Clinic has a pretty decent um, site for that.
Okay, so I have somebody with a hand raised.
Okay.
And if your hand is raised, if you have a question, if you would go to the bottom of your screen and type it in the Q&A, I see Bernice maybe had a question or maybe she bumped. I'm wondering if Bernice, do you have a question? Because your hand is raised. Bernice, I've allowed you to talk. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi, did you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. So in the first or the second slide, I saw like 25 minutes. Well, I have a question about that slide that he mentioned. In the second slide where the guy is like sitting on his screen. And yeah, the other one.
Okay.
So that one, it says take breaks every 25 minutes, like from where? From the computer or from what?
Does it say that in the oh
In the
in the pictogram it says take breaks every 25 minutes.
Yeah, is that from the screen or a specific thing?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
you can potentially do a micro break, but I wouldn't I've never suggested like someone take a break quite that often.
Uh,
Um yeah, it's a little bit too often probably.
yeah, I
Um
just saw it on the screen, like in the pictures. I wasn't sure.
yeah. You know when I'm kind of a perfectionist. So when I try to find pictures online that like I'm
Uh-huh.
usually finding fault with something. Either I don't like the lumbar support's not in the right area, or it's too low or too high, or the head's slightly forward, or that's not really good foot support, or to tell you the truth, I didn't even notice that. Take breaks every 25 minutes.
I was like
Yeah,
it to know.
yeah. No, I think what I've talked to people about would be especially if people have something going on and they have some pain, um, especially if it's maybe back pain. And I might ask them to change positions, maybe if they have a sit stand workstation, what is your sitting tolerance before you start to feel stiff or achiness? Make sure to try to change positions before you start to feel that, or when you first start to feel it slightly. Don't prolong it because you're just going to get more and more uncomfortable if you continue sitting that long. Um, so that would set up well for a sit stand. So if you could take a micro break or change positions every 25 minutes, but the expectation would probably be you'd continue to work until your normal break.
Yeah,
So stretching micro breaks here and there and then changing positions. So
sounds
good
good.
question. Thank you for participating.
Okay. We had one comment. We had said, great information, much appreciated. So that's excellent.
Okay.
Anybody doesn't have any more questions? You guys are really easy today. We will wrap this up. Um, just a couple of things before we are done. We have another webinar next month. You will also have a brief survey at the end of this today that will pop up on your screen. And we'll have a couple of questions to help us for improvement and things for next time. We have the 2026 webinar series on the portal. So if you would like to know what the next one is before we get the email sent out, that is out there. And in general, I just want to say thank you for being our partner and we appreciate you coming today. This will be on our YouTube channel by the end of the week that you can always share it with somebody else and have access to it. So thank you for everything and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Well,
Sorry. For the webinar, for the next webinar. When is the
Mhm.
next webinar?
It is September. You're going to ask me that. It's the third Wednesday of every month. So it would be September 21, I believe.
Okay, truth. week of the month. Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Therese.